Give me your sense of what you see as the primary financial challenges to the city.
Well, we've addressed the pension funds for the police department. We've also got to address the pension funds for other organizations.
How have you addressed the pension funds for the police department?
Well, I mean, you know, in terms of getting agreement to pay their fair portion of the pension fund, and it's a tough thing in terms of that, because we want to ensure that we have quality service, quality civil service.
I just want to check something quickly, if you don't mind. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so so they're going to pay their portion of the pension fund, and that to you means?
That to me means that we're similar to other towns that are in the same situation. It's not a matter of we're giving money to people that's above and beyond what other communities are getting. You know, nobody's promised you that you work 20 years and your life is going to be the same exact as it was when you were in your 30s. You're earning the same money. There's a lot of loopholes in there, but it's a complicated issue, because you also want to retain the best employees you can, the best police department. We need a great police department in this town.
So you talked about other employees. What do you think should happen with other employees?
Well, I mean, similar exact things. We need to have pension plans that are reasonable compared to what the market bears.
Okay. We'll come back through this a little bit more. We're going to explore it, flesh this out a little bit more. But David, your thoughts?
Okay. On the financial side, the pensions are still a big issue. The big elephant in the room right now is two things. We're still on a defined benefit plan, and two, we're under CalPERS, which is not performing, and the unfunded pension liabilities is driving up our personnel costs. A couple of years ago, when I got involved in the issue, it was getting close to 80%. Last couple of years, it's backed off a little bit, which is good.
Well, what's close to 80%?
I'm sorry. The portion of our general budget that we're applying to employee salaries, pensions, and healthcare was close to 80%.
Yeah, it's about 75, right? Cost of labor.
Right. We've taken steps as a city to help address that, but the issue here is if CalPERS doesn't perform, we're going to stay in this situation and keep digging the hole deeper. And CalPERS last year, performed 0.1% instead of 7.25 projected. We're not out of this yet. We've got to keep our eye on this. And long term, we need to move to something different. I'd love to see a defined contribution plan. I know there's issues with that when it comes to the state and the laws, but we need to continue working that direction. And you guys define contributions like 401ks, things like that.
Kathy?
So on the
I'm clear on what a DD is.
So, you know, I think pensions are definitely a part of the expense side, but I think the steps the council took to bring them more under control, combined with some of the legislation that the governor passed and went into effect in January, is a real good start towards getting the situation under control. There's a, you know, the last time the police and the fire contract were renegotiated, they both of those groups stepped up and are now paying, I believe it's 10% of their nine. I think one's 10.
Okay.
Police, I think, is 10. I'm going to swear to that. But the point is they've gone from 0 to a significant contribution. And the miscellaneous employees are paying.
By the way, what's the employer side of that?
16? I'm not sure about that, but.
That was in the 20s, but I'm not sure.
It's high, it's significantly more. The miscellaneous employees contract is under negotiation. You know, they're currently paying 4%. They can go by law up to 8%. So, you know,
Should
obviously.
they?
Yes. Yes, and I would hope that that is something being negotiated. So I think that's a good step with the new retirement for safety at 2 at 57 and the miscellaneous 2 at 67. As we have retirements and bring in new employees, I think that will help it. But for me, you know, obviously we've got to keep some attention on this, but I think it's time to start looking at how we're going to increase the revenues. We're coming out of an economic downturn, and I would hate to see the city miss opportunities to get, you know, to increase the revenues. And for me, it starts in the hacienda
Tell you
business
what,
part.
let's
Okay.
stay on the expenditure side for
Okay.
a while. If
I
we
thought you were
can
asking
get-
about the whole.
Yeah, let's stay on the expenditure side for a second. We can come back to,
So,
you know, I think we're all for economic development. I've never found a candidate who wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay, and, you know, some cities can do it slightly better than others, but on the margins, that's not where you can make the big change as a council member. Would you agree?
Wait, I would agree
with
with that.
Okay, so let's stay on the expenditure
Okay,
side for right
so
now.
obviously the pensions, and then, you know, we've been with the soft hiring freeze, which, you know, I think we need to continue to have and to be careful, keeping track of the expenditures, because it's a big, you know, it's a big in budget.
Olivia?
Real quick, I would disagree with that statement about economic development, but we can address that later in terms of city council members having some influence.
They do have some influence, it's just it doesn't move the numbers on the scale that you have to move it and have had to move to.
Right, but there are things we can do to nurture
Absolutely,
this.
nobody's debating that right now.
No, okay.
Well, I'm just trying to stay on the expenditure side.
Of course.
Because that's where the big dollar movement
Yes.
is.
Yes, and I'd like for you to repeat the question you asked. Yes, what do we think about the financial stability of Pleasanton?
Give me your financial assessment.
You know, when I look at it overall, we have a AA+ rating as a city, and that's a very good rating. And so we should feel very proud of how well we've managed our finances and our budgets thus far.
Do you think you'll still have a double rating after Moody's re-examines your bonds, as they're going to re-examine everybody's bonds?
I'm going to say yes. Yes.
What are you based on?
Because
I mean, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, so
Okay.
they come through. Yes.
I mean, do you know
Because
what Moody's is about to do?
Tell me what you know.
Okay. As we've explained in columns before, you know, Moody's is about to change the way they assess your pension liabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, while I appreciate that you have a AA rating, that doesn't really go to the issue. Okay? Because that lags behind, and as Moody's themselves says, they need to go back and relook. So, okay. So
do you want me to answer about pensions or just the overall financial health? Because I can, because I'll get to pensions, but overall financial, you know, I really like our business model that we don't take on debt for capital improvements. We have a capital improvement fund, and that's how we pay for large projects, except for the golf course. But then even with the golf course and the golf course debt, the city council recently prioritized paying off the debt to save us $11 million in the long run. And what that does is that gives us $1.4 million around 1.4 million each year that we can use to put towards something like our PERS stabilization fund or something else that we need to use in our budget. And so with our reserves and the fact that we end with discretionary reserves of $25 million in this past fiscal year, I would say that Pleasanton financially is in a healthy position.